But if the only character in your movie that inspires any kind of emotion is your antagonist, well, you've got problems.
Nolan, it's me. Isn't that what Metatron does? I swear, I think I've got a brain synapse that's function right now, and it's been connected in a manner that every time I say the name Nolan, I hear Metatron saying Nolan, 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 Nolan. The gift that keeps on giving. So, you thought I was over and I was done talking about the Odyssey. I mean, why would I be? It's out in theaters, and I just want to quickly touch up on it because, honestly, it's not as bad in some areas that we thought it might be, but it was way worse in other areas. Basically, it was basically what we expected. I mean, honestly, like the whole thing was saying, well, have you seen the film? How do you know? You haven't seen the film. It's like, really? So how could we be so accurate in our expectations of what the film was actually gonna do? How could we all be so fucking accurate to it, and without having seen it? If we don't know what's going on. See, like, some of you are just making excuses. All the Nolanites just making silly excuses. Either that, or you're slow. In other cases, that's called retardation. So either you're slow and you don't understand when you see something and you perceive something around you in the world, and that's why it's easy for them to manipulate you and do whatever they want with your thought and your thought process. Either you're slow, absolutely just batshit crazy slow, or you're making excuses because the signs were clear before we saw the film. I gave like a 3-5% chance that maybe we are wrong. We're not wrong. Okay, so here are my thoughts on Nolan's Odyssey. Disclaimer, I haven't seen the film yet. Second disclaimer, I don't plan on seeing the film while it's in theater run because I'm not going to give them any money. They already took a portion of my money from my taxpayer dollars, euros, from my country without even asking me, or any of us for that matter, and done whatever the hell they wanted with their studio money and created that atrocity. I'm not going to pay them more money. They should be paying me to fuck it. They should be paying me reparations for this abomination for me to go and watch it in theaters. I'm not going to go watch that shit. Disclaimer number 3, if it's a disclaimer. I will see the film eventually when I can rent it dirt cheap for like $1 or some shit online and watch it then. Because I refuse to give any money into the pocket of Nolan at all. Having all those things said, I do plan at some point when I get access to the film to actually break it apart and completely, and analyze it with a much deeper dive. But until then, I'm going to talk about what we know about the film. And I've seen at this point over 50 videos, I think, of reviews and opinions and analysis. I've seen everything that Metatron has done. I've seen pretty much everything that Nerdrotic, is that how it's pronounced, has done. I was watching Critical Drinker last night. That was hilarious. I've seen every kind of take as well from the positive side. I've looked at the positive reviews. I've seen people that were praising it. I saw a theater actor. He had like 20 views on his video review. Seeing content from smaller people as well over the place because they're all like, "Oh, the normal people don't really like the film." Yeah, really. 97% of Rotten Tomatoes. Meanwhile, on Metacritic it's a 5 point something, and on IMDb it's an 8 point something. Which IMDb has that to a certain degree, kind of verified score to a certain degree as well, but it's not as obnoxious as it is in Rotten Tomatoes. So I'd give it, I'd say that a 60-70% is probably the overall census on the film. And you have to understand there's a lot of Nolanites as well that are going in and skewing the numbers, even on IMDb and on Metacritic, because the Nolanites is going to give it a 10 out of 10. Whereas there are a lot of people that don't like the film, and they're much more, there are those that are going to be giving it a 0 out of 10. But I think that there are much less those people than the actual Nolanites. And I think most people would actually give it, most of the people that didn't like the film as well have negative things to say about it. They still give it like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. So, you have to be realistic on this. It can't be just a 10 or a 0. It has to fall somewhere. There's definitely going to be good things about it with regards to filming and whatnot. So, I think that the number is much more accurate to around about 60% audience kind of perception. It's alright. A lot of people that like Nolan films were like, hey, it was pretty good. Some people didn't like it that much. Some people were bored as fuck. Whatever the case may be. Where was I going with this? Point being that I've seen that person was a theater actor, and he was, you know, he was talking about it from the perspective of what he would have wanted to see as an actor that would want to play Odysseus, and the roles between, like, especially for him, the biggest scene that was a big letdown was Polyphemus and Odysseus, where that whole thing was just butchered. I mean, okay, yeah, it's horror and whatever, it's got horror elements, it's not a horror film. I've seen positive reviews, people that glaze it. People that glaze it, I've noticed the way they glaze it, they are ignoring to talk about certain things, and it kind of becomes a little bit obvious that there's a bias there. Whereas I've noticed most of the negative reviews, they will talk about, they won't shy away from talking about the good parts and the good aspects of the film. It just goes to show for once more who's on the right side of history, right? The chuds, as they call them, which are absolutely, you know, most of them are absolutely honest and won't be like, you know what, hey, it's pretty great filmmaking, it's got nice technique, the sets and this and that. It might be crappy costume designs and all that, but it had good imagery. Like even Metatron was like praising the scene where Agamemnon walks in. He's like, you know, he hated it because of what the armor was like, but the scene was great. Like it had a feeling to it, an emotion to it, and it was great. And he was just thinking to himself, how amazing would this be if he had actually, you know, period accurate armor or something better than what he was wearing instead of the Batman Agamemnon. So even the people that outright hate on the film because of the themes and what it's doing, they still are much more realistic with regards to their take on it. So I've seen a very large amount of videos and reviews on this, and I'm not going to stay silent. I'm going to express my opinions as well. It has become a bit of a political war at this point, where it's like, oh, you know, we're just going to be owning it to the chuds and silence them. And maybe, to a certain degree, some people consider silence or not talking about something as if you're lost or you're defeated. I'm not talking about the Odyssey that much anymore these days because I'm working on things, and I couldn't give two fucks anymore about Nolan's Odyssey. I mean, honestly, it's garbage. It's hot garbage. I made my series on the Odyssey, take it or leave it, and that's just looking at the more symbolic, underlining kind of like spiritual, philosophical takes of the symbolism behind the Odyssey. There's so many different ways you can go about it. You can go into the historical symbolism, you can go into ethical symbolism, you can try to pick the movie apart in, not the movie, sorry, the story. You can pick the poem apart in so many different ways. And even on the philosophical kind of level, I went on the very surface level stuff with regards to like the obvious, unambiguous kind of like, you know, philosophical symbolisms that were hidden within the text right in our face. I went with that direction to give you, because for me, like every person has a different kind of perspective with regards to what resonates with them more and what resonates with them less and what not. For me, this was the most important part with regards to the story. This was the most powerful resonating, you know, meaning behind the story. But there's a lot of meanings you can take in there. Just like every great work, there's layers to it. So, if you want to actually have a look at the more philosophical, actual symbolism of what the fuck the Odyssey was about, I've made the series for it. It's like, what, 15 videos or something? I'm gonna actually rearrange the playlists on my channel as well and make it a little bit more cohesive. It's there, you can go check it out whenever you want. So I'm not gonna sit here and dizzy your nuts over all the extra stuff with regards to the Odyssey once again. I've made a video in response on Nolan's bullshit. I've pretty much covered it all. But there are still things to actually refer to with regards to the success. There are some people that are saying, oh look, see, it's successful, so it's good. Yeah. Quality and quantity are two different things. If you make a lot of tickets, a lot of sales, and if mainstream masses, which I hate saying that word because a lot of times, you know, it kind of has that hipster vibe and feeling to it, like, you know, oh, it's mainstream, a lot of people like it, so it's bad. That's not necessarily the case. There are objectively good kind of like, you know, artistic works that everybody can love, and they're just great. And it doesn't put me out of the fact that a lot of people like it. So I don't have a problem with mainstream and whatnot. So maybe in a derogatory fashion, I could say to a certain degree, I'm using this term now, but maybe it's not the best way of labeling it either. I'd say that the cinephiles that are pretending that this is like a masterpiece and a work of art, they're like, see, it made so much money, that's why it's a great film. How much money a film makes is not the measure of how good a film is. Let's not forget that at least 30 to 40% of the audience that went to see it did not enjoy it. Another 20% thought it was just meh. And then there's like that last 30-40% that are sucking Nolan's cock. So it is a divisive film, and the fact that it had so many tickets means nothing because it's a Nolan film. I couldn't predict because there was a lot of downvoting, there was a lot of controversy. I thought, you know what, it could be the film that Nolan experiences that's going to bomb. but I wasn't sold on that idea 100%. It could make a lot of money as well, regardless if it's a Nolan film. I wasn't sold on that idea either. I was kind of in between. So, I can't remember if I really expressed my opinion on that that much, but if I did, it's like, maybe just touching on both ends of the equation, because for me it was like, it could go either way. I mean, it's a Nolan film, and Nolan brings money in, and he has this overhyped name. He's not that great of a director, honestly. If I'm gonna be honest, he's not that great of a director. I've seen better films. He has some good films. He has some really good films, and I really enjoy some of them. Insomnia, I didn't like it. Like there was this huge hype over it, I think, because Al Pacino and Robin Williams, great actors, and I think that I tried to buy into the hype myself, and I kind of kept pushing pushing myself to like it, because I'm like, it's an Al Pacino film, you know what I mean? I didn't care if it was Nolan or not at the time. I just cared it was an Al Pacino film. Being honest, I think that film was boring as fuck, and that the story was uninspired. Like, other people were like, oh, it was so good. Yeah, the twists and the plot twists. For me, these aren't, I have a mind with plot twists and storytelling and all that shit, and all my experiences with all the different kind of mediums and content and things that I have experienced and things that I write myself. It was meh. It was worse than meh for me. Like, as a film, it was great. Just as a film generally, but as a film that I would want to watch again, or that I enjoyed, or that it bored the fuck out of me. Insomnia for me was shit. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Batman Begins was pretty good. I really enjoyed Batman Begins, and I have seen it probably like 15-20 times, and that is testament of how good a film is. Linear storytelling. So you don't have to be, all Nolan about it with regards to making good films, but it is a proof that he can actually, make good films. And then we had The Prestige. For me, that's probably one of his best films. I really enjoyed The Prestige. I've got the list right here, so I'm going to go through it all. The Dark Knight was a little bit too long, and it did have a little bit of like a, kind of like a pacing issue in the middle, which personally didn't mind me. But if we're going to go from filmmaking terms, the pace was not good. The Dark Knight pace was not good. It was a 6-7 out of 10. It has like moments in that just go a little bit dragged on too much. For me personally, again, as an experience, as a story, I really enjoyed it, and I liked that tension that it created, and the way that it actually stretched certain parts out. I really enjoyed it. But going by actual, being like how the film works, it was a 6 out of 10 to a certain degree. In terms of themes, it was a 7, 8 out of 10. It wasn't something like masterclass themes, amazing themes. It was great for a superhero film, or for just a hero slash villain film. And the cinematography was pretty great. It was some really cool shit happening in there. The fight scenes and the choreography, not that good. In all the Batman films, it's not that good. Like, way too many like close shots and trying to hide what's happening, and I'm sick and tired of that. Actually get, stunt doubles that can actually fight, or fuck off. Anyway, so The Dark Knight was okay. Inception was pretty good. I kind of enjoyed Inception. It wasn't amazing, but I really did enjoy it. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. The Dark Knight Rises, I enjoyed that as well. I'd give it an 8 out of 10 as well. Interstellar, I really enjoyed Interstellar. Some people are more meh on it. Some people are, more like Interstellar. For me is an 8, close to 9 out of 10. And I like the way that, again, it was a little bit more linear in the way that it was actually working as a story. But I did like the fifth dimension kind of like, throw back into how everything is actually connected and how it works, which anyway, that touches on to metaphysical things that I have dived into myself. Dunkirk, boring as fuck. Like, honestly, Dunkirk for me was just boring as fuck, unenjoyable, unimaginable. Like, I just didn't, it done nothing for me. Dunkirk done nothing for me. Oppenheimer, haven't seen it yet, couldn't care less. I'll probably see it at some point. Same way with Tenet, I couldn't care less. And I ended up seeing it about 2024, 2025, I think 25. I think I saw it 2024. I saw it 2024, Tenet. What's my opinion on Tenet? And here's the whole proof that it's all about subjective takes in the end, and it's all about how we like it. A lot of people didn't like Tenet and didn't vibe with them. I've seen it 3 times. And not so I can understand it, but because I enjoyed it. Now, I don't know what that says about me, but the clear thing that I want to display and portray here is that I'm not a Nolan cocksucker, but I'm not a Nolan hater either. Like, there's some films that hit with me, there were some things that didn't hit with me, there's some things that land, some things that didn't. Some of the films that people didn't really like Tenet, I really enjoyed it. Personally, I really enjoyed Tenet. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. and I know I can see and I can understand objectively, even not just subjectively, but objectively, even why a lot of people would not vibe with the film and why they wouldn't like it. Me personally, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I don't know, it just did it for me. The story was okay. It's just that the way that I don't know, just like the maybe the way that I was immersed in the whole story and the whole vibe, I kind of felt I felt things with it, which is strange to say. But yeah, still probably one of the films that I might not watch again. Like I've already seen it 3 times, but I might see it again. I don't know, whatever. The point being that there's no doubt that Nolan can direct films. You know, there was never a doubt on that front. Our issue and our problem with the film was with the messaging. Okay, with the messaging that's trying to do. And honestly, we were right to hate on it all along. The film is hot garbage at this point. I know every single scene almost, that the entire film has, and I've seen video clips. I've seen like, oh my god, it's just bad. It's horrendous. Like, when you're on the beach and you're like, let's get the fuck off this beach. Like, how can you see that sequence and be like, this is a great film, this is a masterclass in filmmaking? Are you kidding me? The sets, I've seen the armors, it all looks like shit. The only thing, which by the way I haven't commented on, was the swords, and I had seen an image of it as well, but I forgot to comment on it. My bad, from my previous videos. The swords, and on the video right before this as well, like, where I have like certain things, like the article, it's showing an image with him where there's an American with a Latino and an Indian on top of a hill on Ithaca, and they're apparently the Greeks. Okay, whatever, mate, whatever. The swords there, I noticed them. I didn't comment on it because I had my mind on talking about other things, but I noticed the swords. I'm like, those are period accurate bronze swords, Mycenaean and blah blah blah. Those are great, and they actually look amazing, which just goes to show that that's even more like a slap in the face, telling you we know what it's like, we know what the actual thing looks like, and we just don't want to do it. It's even worse. That's even worse than him actually creating something completely different of his own. It's that he's showing us, you know what, we have the records, we do have access to all the historical kind of findings and the archaeological findings and museum findings and all stuff. We just don't want to do it. That's what it was showing me, which is even worse. Like, don't even do that. Don't even do it. You make such shit costumes and props and settings, and everything is like, the color palette is wrong. It doesn't look like. I am right now living in Hellas. It's got so much sun outside. I don't know if you can hear it on the microphone. Like, one of the biggest issues that I'm having with all these videos that I'm recording, all these, these last couple of months, is that I have the crickets so freaking loud that it's completely ruining the sound half the time. That's how hot it is. If you look outside, it's so lush, bright, and colorful right now. Obviously, I'm not gonna, show or anything, reveal locations and whatnot. It's just so lush and bright and colorful. I get the mountain right ahead, right next to me. Well, compared to other countries, it would be considered a mountain. For us, it's called it's a hill. For us here in Greece, but it is a mountain. I get the mountain right there with olive trees and trees all over it, and beautiful blue sky behind it, and the lush greens. That's Hellas, and you can see how vibrant the light is actually. I have no lights in here. You can see how the vibrant, and the camera is dimming a lot of the light as well, and it is dim as well because the sun is on the other side. So this is like I'm in the shade now. And look how much vibrant color there is. What the fuck happened to Bronze Age Hellas? Did it just all of a sudden become a sepia photograph? Like, the color palette is wrong, the costumes are wrong, all that shit is wrong. It doesn't mean that you can't make a good film. It doesn't mean that practical effects aren't good. I mean, I don't care about something having practical effects or not. A lot of people are just like, oh, CGI ruins films. No, CGI is fucking amazing. Bad CGI ruins films, same way that bad practical effects ruin films. And a lot of people are just stuck on nostalgia rather than actually enjoying something. It's like I see a lot of older films with practical effects. I grew up on them as well. It's just that I'm not nostalgically biased, and I see them and I'm like, man, some of those effects are, they're creative and they're awesome and stuff, but they really are bad overall in some of the films. Some of them are amazing, some of them are just bad. So going either way, it's like, whether it's practical effects or CGI, it makes no fucking difference to me. What makes a difference to me is if the director, the artists, the department, the modeling department, all that stuff, whether they're making actual 3D models, or like modeling department is actually making sculptures and little miniatures and all that stuff, like the Lord of the Rings where they made Minas Tirith and all that stuff. Whatever the case may be, what concerns me is their talent and how good their work is, their result. And you can go in either direction. And I would argue that the best way to go about it is to create a blend of both. Get hands on deck that actually know the art and the craft to a degree that you have good CGI and good practical effects. Just being practical effects doesn't elevate a film for me. I don't give a fuck. Just being CGI obviously doesn't, because everything is CGI now, it's just rinse repeat. And a lot of the studios, because they want to cut money, they just, using the same shit over and over again and the same palette of, effect nodes pretty much in their, in their workflow, so they can save money. And you can see that everything kind of like looks the same after a certain point. That's because there's no creativity, there's no vision there, you know what I mean? It's not that it's bad, it's not that the CGI is the problem, it's bad CGI. So we have bad CGI, we can have bad practical effects. Same way you can actually have good practical effects and good CGI. Now if you combine those two together, you have the best of both worlds. So that aspect meant nothing to me, whatever. But the elephants in the room, and there's several of them. I saw a Greek. I'd like to call him Hellenic, but there's a distinction there. Grekili was actually, it was never a bad word in Greeks, and it was given to us from Old Latin, by the way. For some of you that are constantly wondering if I have any, I might make a point to actually state this every now and then again, the difference between Greece and Hellas. In Greece, Grekili, the initial coming of the word is not bad. It's from Latin and from the Romans, and they call this the Greki, and there was like it does come from Latin and Roman, so it was initially not a bad thing. The same way that if you think of the N word, it was just color. It wasn't a bad thing in its actual roots. And there's an actual country called Nigeria. So in its actual, and in some countries like in Spanish as well, it's the color black. So it doesn't it's not in its own a bad word. But historically, just like the N word, it was used afterwards and it was turned into something bad, and it was used in a derogatory fashion. You were calling them N words all the time. That word took a different meaning. And that's where the problem with a lot of people are like, oh, well, the initial kind of thing of what Greek is, it's not a bad thing. It's you're missing the fucking point here for some of the people that are not understanding here. Grekili and Greki was actually used as a derogatory term from the Turks and the Ottoman Empire and stuff, and other Greeks and so on and so forth, as calling us small and calling us slaves. Okay? The same way that the N word took that form within our actual culture and how they were actually using it against us, that was the way they were using it. So it was actually within the region of Hellas, it was used in that way. They wouldn't call us an alien, they'd call it Grekilos, you know what I mean? So it has a bad connotation to it. Now, I'm saying this because a lot of people do hear the whole thing of like Greece and Hellas. I mean, it's not a bad thing, so it's just like, it's, you're just racist because you don't want to hear, the Latin kind of pronunciation or version of it from other people calling it. No, that's not the case. It was actually used as in a derogatory fashion against the Greeks, against the Hellenes during the occupancy, and it remained as such. That's why Deutschland, Germany, they were kind of in the naming of Hellas, like the new naming of Hellas, they were kind of diplomatic about it. They didn't accept the whole Greece, they didn't accept the whole Hellas either, and they called us Griechenland, however the hell they pronounce it. It's Greece plus Hellas land as one. Showcasing that they respect both sides. A very diplomatic move, you might say, to a certain degree, and that's okay. Point being that there's a reason why there's a difference between Hellas and Greece. And for those of you that think it's, you might look into it with regards to linguistics and whatnot. It's the same thing as the N word. If you look at it linguistically, the actual roots of it and how it was originally used, or whatever the original meaning is not something bad. It was turned into something derogatory, and it was constantly calling the black people in that sense, kind of demeaning them and calling them slaves, and they used it in a derogatory fashion, and it took a different form and meaning. Okay? That's part of the culture of a language and how words are formed with regards to the weight that they carry behind them. And same thing with Greek. So I saw a review from a Greek that had his issues with regards to the film, but was praising a lot of stuff as well. And I noticed that, a lot of people are saying something that is completely off point. What they're saying, Lupita Nyong'o had only a small amount of screen time. That's even worse. I don't understand how you're using this as an excuse. That's actually worse. Do you not understand this? It goes to show that they purposefully did this, and it was such a small role that they honestly could have just cast a woman that looked like Helen of Sparta. But they went out of their way for a role so small to race swap. And that's just the beginning of it. I don't care if she's 10 seconds in the film. I don't care if they just see her at some point. It's like, hey, that's Helen of Troy, Helen of Sparta. And they show her for 5 seconds and she says nothing. I don't care. You made her black. She's not black. Why are you erasing our culture and our history as Hellenese? I didn't go to Nigeria and start whitewashing things. Now, I don't care what you want to say about the old cinema. The fact that you agree to it being a bad thing, you're actually saying that, oh, well, they did it back in the day. So what are you saying? That they did it back in the day and it was bad and we all agree that it was bad? For whatever the reason may be, there were maybe even logistical reasons, but whatever the case may be, it was bad, we all disagree with it. So what is your response to that? You're actually being a hypocrite and doing it yourself now? You just admitted that it's bad. Like you keep pointing to that area. You're like, oh, when they did it. What are you trying to say? When they did it, so it gives you the right to do it. Like you just agreed that it's a bad thing, but you're actually endorsing the act of doing it now. Doesn't that make you a hypocrite? I don't care if she's on the screen for 1 second. Like boom, it just comes in and out. You know, like we have a part where we go into Menelaus's place, and as the camera pans away, we just see Helen of Troy at the back and she's black. I don't care if it's that little. I don't care. You made her black, and you're sending a symbol and a message. And the message here is, of course, by extension, that Menelaus, well, he vandalized her. Oh, you can't have, you know, so, okay, I'll give you a question here then. Why not make Menelaus black as well? That's right, because we're going to have the white person victimizing and vandalizing the black person, or the person of color, or of a different ethnicity, or the strangers, as they call them. Isn't that hilarious? More subminimal messaging going on through all of this. Why didn't Menelaus turn black as well? And it doesn't stop there, because they ruined the whole idea and meaning of what Xenia means. Odysseus was pushed to go back home. He didn't want to go back home. Completely the opposite of what the actual story was showing. Odysseus' men are not a part of him, which were always a part of him, and he lost them slowly through the journey. They even abandoned him at a point. Completely different to the story. Calypso was in the film forcing or helping or pushing, kind of like being like, you know what, I'm fed up with your ass for 7 years, can you fuck off and go home? When that was never the case. She actually had him captive because she was in love with him, but God forbid, in a feminist take, we actually have a female have any emotions towards a man and do any bad. You know what I mean? She held him captive, completely turned and changed. He's practically on drugs so he can forget the past, completely ruining it and blending it together to create a completely different narrative. He's a PTSD moron. He has no cunning, which is not showed and portrayed in anywhere in the film. Like he has cunning. He has no cunning. He's been constantly female-splained by even the image of Athena, which is not Athena, and they explain it and whatever. There's no gods, there's no mythical, there's nothing magical in this film. But there is a Cyclops running around. Which then they can actually argue, yeah, but he was under the hallucinations of drugs while he was saying all these things. Completely butchering the entire story in every single way that they possibly could. The sirens are not trying to persuade them and seduce them, because again, God forbid that a female entity or feminine power or whatever is trying to seduce a man. The females in this film can do no wrong, and the underlying message is the law of Zeus, Xenia, which is be good and kind to strangers. That's not the law of Xenia. The law of Xenia is a reciprocative kind of situation here. You know, in Hellas, even to today, we still have this within our actual culture. We still have it quite a lot in our actual culture. And I would argue, even after the fact that, in my opinion, it has been degraded, like compared to the 90s, it's been degraded quite a lot. Still, I see so many tourists and so many people coming here to Hellas and constantly telling me how hospitable and how welcoming we are. You know, and we're great hosts. We still have Xenia in us today. It's part of our culture, okay? Whenever we have someone come over our place, we need to make sure that the place is tidy, it's clean, we have food for them, we have drinks, we have sweets. We actually don't invite people over to our house unless it's in a presentable fashion and manner, because we care about being good hosts. It's part of our culture still today. And it is something that is talked about as well. Like if you go and visit someone's house and it's a shithole, people will talk about it and be like, oh, okay, Like Xenia is something that is part of our culture even today. But you know what's very important in part of that hospitality that you give? The reciprocative respect that you get back from them. You know, and that is also part of our culture. If you come into my house and I'm hospitable towards you and you don't respect it, you're not invited back in. And that's the part that he didn't show as much, like the balance between the whole situation. Because at the end of that, they were trying to find a reason to actually kill the suitors, even though they had already broken Xenia. It's like they hadn't respected the hospitality. So now why are you trying to look for an excuse? Go in there, cut their heads off, and move on. The people that could not accept them, which is part of the symbolism that I didn't cover in the actual in my actual series for the real Odyssey and the symbolism behind it, I thought it was pretty obvious, but I didn't want to, again, because I was trying to, make it more of like a summary of everything. The whole part of Theseus, the blind prophet, telling Odysseus, you're going to go into the mainland, blah, 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 and it's practically telling him you're going to go to exile and you're going to sacrifice the ore. What this symbolizes is that the old life cannot coincide with the new life. He has changed as a person now, and that old life has parts in it that won't accept certain things. Like the suitors, the family of the suitors, which is, again, symbolically the internal kind of, demons and all stuff, and he cleanses all that. There are still parts of that outside of us, and they're going to be constantly trying to attack us and take the place of the suitors again. Okay? And you can't have the old life become the new life, like be the same thing. You have to let it go, leave it behind, and start anew. And that's when he lives peacefully ever after. So there's a lot of symbolic kind of like references. It could be on an ethical level, it could be on a religious level, it could be on a level of society. Like if you're, that you need to be exiled in certain cases, like even a king has to be exiled in certain cases, and bow down to the people if he crosses certain lines or whatever the case may be. There's a more philosophical kind of layer to it. Like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of different layers you could actually get to this. But the thing is that he was trying to find excuses of how he would actually, attack them. The entire idea of Xenia was never kind of like showed and mentioned. And one of the things that some people are debunking this, some people are saying that it's actually the case, that he had PTSD over the fact that he created the Trojan horse and that he duped the Trojans with a gift, and through that gift he sacked the city. Now the sacking of the city, I think, is symbolically something that is karmically bad, and it did follow the Hellenes. It did follow them afterwards, and it did bring, in my opinion, karmically, the fall of this Mycenaean civilization. I think that there are acts that we do, and sometimes even necessary evils, because there was wars with Troy for a lot of years before, the Iliad. And it was kind of like a last kind of effort against the Hittites to be like, you know what, we keep taking the city back and forth, I'm going to burn it to the ground, and you're not going to have a city here at all. That was kind of the whole attempt and the whole approach at that point, which you could say it's kind of like, extreme, sure. Those things did happen back in the day, and not just in Hellas, but all over the world. In other places of the world, much worse happened. I don't want to get into that. Point being is that he has PTSD because he actually took advantage of them through a gift. And some people also present this as in that was breaking Xenia. No, it isn't. You're at war. It's the enemy. Use every single tactic in the book. Like a video that I saw recently, about a year ago, of an actual Japanese samurai, with historical, lineage and whatnot. And he was looking at a lot of takes on people saying, the samurai would kill honorably, they wouldn't use poison. He's like, yeah, we would. We'd absolutely use poison, because the biggest honor is actually the honor to your house. And it wasn't about fighting honorably, it was about winning. And that's what war is as well. And if anything, the Trojan horse, it saved a lot of people and a lot of time from them constantly continuing the siege. Now, ultimately, you can say he ended up in the sacking of the city of Troy. That would have happened anyway, it's just that it would have had a lot more people dying before it ended up happening. So he has PTSD over something which was actually a good act, and it was clever. He has PTSD over the sacking of Troy. The whole film has been created into a World War II epic. Like, you could get any kind of war story and make this the point of it. So all the things that we were saying, they came true. And it's actually even worse. The females can do no bad. It touched on Xenia, which is something we didn't know that it was touching on, and it represents it bad. To show that we need to accept strangers. No. You are a good host to guests, not strangers, guests. Very fine, different lining of words here. If there's an invader, you defend your city. If it's a guest, you invite them in and you are hospitable. And by extension, they need to respect that, which is the whole point of the Trojan War, symbolically as well, because there are a whole bunch of other reasons why the war happened. They were looking for an excuse. Yes, let's be honest. It's not that all of a sudden the Iliad, oh, this happened between us and the Trojans, we've been friends for so long. No, there were a lot of wars happening up to that point already. So they were just looking for an excuse at some point. It's not even looking at excuses, it's just like shit happens. It's like, of course we're going to go to war. We've been at war all this time. If anything, the whole reason why it started again, that whole conflict, was that they broke Xenia again. They came into the Spartan home, slept with his wife, and kidnapped her. The things that we didn't know are actually even worse. The fact that he brought Xenia into the whole picture but represented it wrong. He didn't make it reciprocative. It has to work both ways. And some people argue again. I'm going to have to see the film myself when I do to see how much it actually was trying to show us that the Trojan horse was breaking Xenia, which is completely batshit crazy if that's the case. It can't. It's completely irrelevant. That's like saying that the Trojans could have at any point of time opened the doors and be like, hey, we're inviting you in, so you can't attack us. We're inviting you in, so now we're all friendly here. Xenia, you can't attack us, man. It doesn't work that way. You're at war with them. Like, confusing shit. Giving us the underlining message that we need to be welcoming to strangers, and Nolan said this as well in one of the interviews, that when you leave your home, it's just open to strangers and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so you're basically saying that it's normal and natural for people to just break into your house, and what you should do in that case, they're not strangers or they're not guests, they're invaders at that point, and what you should practically do at that point is respect it. And he says some stupid thing that civilization, is society functions only with how we treat strangers. No. Society only functions with how both treat each other. Because if a stranger comes and he doesn't respect you, then he's going to take the point of your xyphos. It's that simple. And we have that even in modern Hellas today. If you disrespect my hospitality, it's going to be a while before I invite you back. Like, most people don't invite you again. Other people are a little bit more lenient and more patient. They might have a second, third, fourth offense, depending on how the elasticity, let's just say, to their hospitability. Some people are actually being taken advantage of because of families and whatnot. I've seen this in real life as well. They're constantly hospitable and they're constantly being disrespected. And that is bad karma and that's bad energy as well. But there are also the cases where you would not invite the person ever back again, or if you would invite them after a while, and if they do the same shit again, then it's like, you're dead to me, fuck off. We have that still in modern Hellas today, which other countries, they don't care. When a friend would come up to my house, if anything was if my room was a pigsty, I'd feel embarrassed and ashamed about it. And it happened a couple times because it was an unannounced intrusion to a certain degree. And I was like, but they never cared. I'm noticing, hold on, he doesn't care. Now some people can say, oh, it's just, it's chill and all that stuff and whatever. Yeah, if you reach the point where you're kind of like a brotherly family thing and you're just practically over the other person's house all the time, yes, but not on one-off visits. And I noticed that this was something that my family and other Hellenes or Greeks would notice and talk about, but Australians, or I don't know, maybe Italians as well. I had Italian friends, Lebanese friends. I had a lot of friends from different cultures. I'm not sure how much they had this notion as well. I had black friends. I had a friend from Somalia. He lived next to me, like 10-minute walk. I used to go over his house quite a bit. I noticed most other cultures didn't have this whole sense and notion. We still have it here in Hellas, and he represented it wrong as well. So it's even worse. I thought that to a certain degree, at least he'd make Odysseus cunning. At least he'd make Odysseus want to go home. He didn't even do that. So make no mistake about it, there haven't been some videos been uploaded on the Odyssey for a while because I'm doing work. It's not because, there are some people that are like, we own the charts because look at the money that it's making. Again, the money that it makes at the box office, it's not a measure of a film's quality. The last Transformers film, or which one was it? One of the worst Transformers films made like $1 billion or something. That doesn't mean anything. Personally, I enjoy the Transformer films. They're just mindless popcorn, explosions and actions on the screen. I don't have a problem with that. I know what I'm going in for. I'm not going for some amazing plot, so I don't care. Again, it's all about knowing what you're in there for. Like if I go to see a Superman film, I'm not going to go in there expecting realism and judge it with regards to how can he fly around. You know what I mean? Like, that's the whole point of the film. It's understanding the medium that you're actually reviewing in every single case as well, and why you're watching and why you're seeing that film in the first place. And I argue that that's the case with a lot of the Transformers films. That's why I like the Transformers films. For the most part, they were great, mindless, action flick fun. Were they quality films? Fuck no. Does the budget, because it's so big, prove that they're great, amazing masterclass films? No. But they were just films that people enjoyed watching, or they just wanted to see the train wreck. The same with the Odyssey. A lot of people just want to see what the hell the whole fuss is about. Whatever the case may be, that's irrelevant. And no, I'm very busy doing certain things that I want to, at some point, start going back into with regards to the content that is being expressed on this channel here. And that's the reason why I haven't made any videos on the Odyssey. And also, I didn't see the film, and I don't plan on seeing the film. And it takes time to actually see all these reviews and see what the actual film is about. And I plan on seeing the film way after it's actually out of the cinemas. So I'm not giving Nolan any money. I refuse. Okay? So I'll see it when I see it, but I've seen more than enough to know what the story is about. And all the people, they're trying to misdirect the conversation to other areas once more. Lupita Nyong'o was just for such a small screen time. So why change her then? It's almost not important at that point. So why change it? But that's just the beginning of it. It's like you're missing the point here. You have Africans, Indians, and Koreans on a beach saying we're Greeks. You have a Latino hombre, okay, with an Indian Hare Krishna next to a Chicago, hey, how you like lemon apples? All on a hill pretending that they're Greek. While they're sitting there talking in modern day language, in shitty props that are completely bad, in desaturated lighting, completely ruin the immersion, say let's get the fuck off this beach, yo. Whilst you change the entire story and the moral of the whole plot, you make Odysseus dumb and PTSD a drug addict that is actually trying to forget the past. You change the symbolism of Xenia. There's no females here that are you're actually reducing the role of females. You're whining about the Odyssey and Homer and the Homeric poems and the Homeric poets. There were many. And you're arguing and you're complaining about their representation of females. They actually elevated females. They gave them power. They made them goddesses. They made them deities. You reduced all that to a bunch of weird, shitty modern takes that don't even fit in the ancient time, making Penelope have a whole whiny moment over her son becoming the new king, which she would have praised it back in the day. Like, the immersion is completely off. The symbolism is off. The plot is off. Calypso was not in love with Odysseus and didn't kidnap him and keep him prisoner. She's actually trying to get rid of him. Like, the whole thing is off. I don't give a shit at that point if your cinematography is absolute masterclass, which it isn't, by the way. Let's not bullshit ourselves. The audio in the Nolan films has always been a problem. Like in The Dark Knight Rises, oh my god, Bane was a pain in the ass. I couldn't understand what the fuck he was saying in the film. Like, I speak English. I was born in Greece. I went to Australia at the age of 6, and I came back at the age of 21, 22 years ago. I know English. I speak English. I understand English. I have to actually look at the subtitles because I was in Greece when the film came out. I actually had to look at the subtitles in Greek so I could translate it back in English in my head and understand what his words were. I'm like, I don't understand what he's saying. His voice is all over the place, and he's got like all the sounds of like. You got the fucking explosion of the craft. No, brother, one of us has to stay behind. It was like, what the fuck, bro? Like, I can't understand what you're saying. Like, it's already bad sound design, and you give me a guy that's actually talking through his ass as well at the same time. Even Tenet, there were scenes and moments where I'm like, what are they saying? What are they saying? So when your sound, like audio, is part of like the biggest aspects with regards to a film, the soundtrack wasn't amazing. The sound is not amazing. How can you call it masterclass? Like, he doesn't understand what sound is. How can you call it masterclass? You know what I mean? A lot of bullshit going out there. I don't care how good your filmmaking is. If your entire film is just that with regards to the content of it, how good you shot that content means nothing to me. It's like filming a turd, and as you're filming the turd, you're like, look at the quality of this. Look how good and how steady the hand and the panoramic shot is around the turd. And you can actually see all the creases in the turd. And holy shit, the person that ate this might have had some, some sesame seeds as well, because I can see them, in high quality, high contrast quality and fidelity here. It's, pure masterclass. It's still a fucking turd. That's the whole point here. Anyway, so for those of you that are actually thinking, oh, we own the chuds, you didn't own shit. And if anything, Nolan opened Pandora's box. Elon Musk now is talking about making his own AI rendition of it, which, yeah, okay, whatever. I saw the video. It goes for the old kind of film style to it. Personally, I would go for a much different direction as well with that, but even that was better than what Nolan did. And he's also said that he would be okay with funding Mel Gibson to make his own Odyssey. Now, if anything, that kind of shows that he opened Pandora's box. There is a chance that we might get another Odyssey, and a more period accurate and proper Odyssey, because of Nolan's atrocity. And that's beautiful. That's wonderful. Because that's how you're supposed to respect some of the greatest works of our heritage and culture as a species, as people, as humans. Now, is it going to happen? Probably not. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't believe that it's going to happen. And the main reason is because Elon can be like, hey, I'll give you the money, Mel? Hey there, I'll give you as much as you want. But Mel has to actually accept and be like, do I want to even work on this? Do I want to go in the process of writing a script for it? Do I want to go in the process of filming? He might not want to even do it. Like, I think that the chances that he might be interested in doing it might be very small. I think he's in a different place with regards to what he wants to work on. And I think he is, and I respect that about him, the kind of director that would be like, I don't care how much money you throw at me. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. So for me, the chances of it actually happening, people are like now writing with the headlines. I just saw it this morning. Yo, you new Mel Gibson film. It's like, bro, relax. Okay, just because Elon Musk said some shit, it doesn't mean much. Because if Mel Gibson doesn't accept it, he doesn't turn around and say, yeah, I'll be up for it. You know what I mean? Like, even if he says, oh, I'll be up for it, like generally, yeah, great. But then you have to look at all the logistics. Like, when will you be up for it? Can you do it now? When's it going to start? And if he starts filming now, we're going to get the film like 3-4 years. It's like, it's a whole process, a whole situation. The chances of it actually happening, I think, are very slim. I think it's like a 10% chance, maybe 15% chance that it happens. But it is a possibility. It is still in the realm of, holy shit, Nolan, you just opened Pandora's box. Okay? And I'm going to end this video on a small note. A little clarification here, because I see a lot of people saying that, it's part of, Western culture. And because it's part of Western culture, just like the Greeks were able to do whatever they want with their work and they can change it around, we can change it around as well. Yeah? It's part of Western culture. Let me make this straight to you. It's part of World Heritage. Let's cut to the chase and make it simplify it, because I don't want to piss off any of my cultural and historical brothers out there and get them feeling as if I'm pushing them out of my culture. Okay? Because there's a lot of people that would take certain things in a certain way and be like, oh, why did you say that? I'm gonna make it nice and simple. All history on planet Earth belongs to World Heritage. From then on, who it actually belongs to and who has ownership of something belongs to a specific culture, and only that culture has ownership. And even further so, within that culture, you will notice that there are families or city-states or locations or whatever the case may be, where that history and that ownership is divided and brought down to even more refined parts. Like the Takeda history, it's Japanese history, but it's part of the Takeda clan. I think I'm saying it right. Or the Oda clan, and so on and so forth. The Spartans, 300 Spartans, it's part of my heritage. I'm Hellenic. But when you go even deeper, it's part of the Spartan heritage. I'm Corinthian, just a little bit north of Sparta. So even in Hellas, when we talk to each other, it's like, oh, when someone says I'm from Sparta, you're like, oh, descendants of Leonidas. You still distinguish a difference between the precision or the exact being of that ownership to a certain degree. Okay? And by extension, that means that the Odyssey, yes, it's part of world heritage, and you could argue to a certain degree it's part of Western culture. Part of your culture, maybe if you want to make that extent and you feel as if it's part of you and you enjoy it in that sense, good, yes, sure, but it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the Hellenes. Okay, let's make that statement obvious, and I'll give some extra examples here, like the Greco-Roman, Ελληνο-Ρωμαϊκή Historia, Greco-Roman history. Greek-Roman, it's basically the foundation was Hellenic, but the Romans built something new of their own, and it was a continuation. And it's two beautiful cultures that are distinct and they have differences between them. I can't turn around and say, because I'm Hellenic, and you based your culture on, on my ancestors, so all the derivative that you've created there, it belongs to me. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the Italians. It's Roman heritage. It's Roman culture. Now I feel them as brothers, and I'm like, and overall, if we zoom out a little bit more, we Mediterraneans, we have claim of this culture more than someone in Japan, obviously, and then if you zoom out even more, a European can say the same thing towards an African, that, hey, in Europe, it's part of my culture. So the more you go out, it's all about zooming in and zooming out of the whole image and the whole picture. But make no mistake about it, this micro and macro kind of like lens that you can actually look at things doesn't change where the ownership of something belongs. And the Odyssey belongs to the Hellenes, and only the Hellenes if we take it down to its actual core matter. And by extension, I would argue, not even the Hellenes have a right to fuck around with it, because it's a recorded culture and history. You can have your own takes on it and renditions. There's a difference between renditions and takes, and there's a difference between changing history and culture, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people are like, sue Nolan. It's a rendition, it's an artistic take, and he'll win all the court cases, in my opinion. Besides the only thing you can say here is that if he duped the Hellenic government into saying that we're going to honor a specific story, and then they got the 6, in some cases I heard 8.5 million, and they did something completely different, that's a violation of a contract. But if it was just, hey Nolan, we're happy to have you here, here's 6 million, and he's like, awesome, I'll see you at the premiere. If that's the case, you can't say shit, you know what I mean? You still can't sue him. You can turn around and say, well, cinema is an art form. So I understand that in that case, but there's a difference between when something happens constantly, consistently, all the time, and you're constantly changing characters, you're constantly changing every story. You're giving us Black Achilles, you're giving us Black Zeus and Netflix things, you're giving us Black Athena, you're giving us all this, and then you have Afrocentrists turn around and say that the first Hellenes were black. Like there's more to it here than just a rendition and just an adaptation. End of the day, I don't care if you're Hellenic, I don't care if you're Italian, I don't care if you're French, I don't care if you're African, I don't care if you're American, I don't care what you are. You don't have a right to change recorded texts from any culture, not just Hellenic. Okay? And if you're constantly representing certain things in a certain way, it's suspect. And it's been happening for a very long time. And it's very, very, very suspect. And the fact that your culture was perhaps like Western civilization was based on Hellas, it doesn't give you ownership over Hellas, and it doesn't give you ownership over the Hellenic culture, because what came from it is a derivative of something completely new that you created, like the Greco-Roman example that I gave. Like they're my brothers and everything, and it's part of the Mediterranean culture and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's part of the actual Italian people. And just like in their case, when you go to Sicily, even smaller location, they have a different resonance and a different vibration of frequency, let's just say, with how they feel inside them when they hear of a story that was in Sicily. Yes, it belongs to the whole Italy and the whole of, the Roman period, but more specifically belongs to Sicilians. See what I'm saying? Now, if I go to Mars and I'm talking with a Martian and I'm French and he talks to me, and he's reading the Odyssey, and you're like, oh, that's my culture, that's awesome, I love how you're reading Odyssey. Why? Because I'm a human and he's a Martian. And yes, it is part of my culture. So the more you zoom out again, micro, macro, and they're trying to slyly use this whole, world heritage things to bend the lines and do whatever the fuck they want. That's the case. And then they actually turn around and say shit like, oh, the Greeks did it. Yeah, because it's our work. It's like you're saying the Japanese, they formed the sword, the katana, over many years, and then they had the finalized form of how they would make katanas. And because they had the whole process of how they were building the katana, now I can just go and make whatever the hell I want and start experimenting and then call that a katana. That's not how it works. The Homeric poems were formed and finally it was put into text, and now it's the final form. That's it. Now, if you're going to respect all this work and you're going to give us proper renditions and you're going to respect the culture as well, then I'll be okay with you making a rendition as well that is, in sci-fi cyberpunk space, that is actually based heavily on the Odyssey, but it's completely different rendition, different time, different place. Put as many cultures as you want in it, change the dialogue, make it as much slang as you want, because you're depicting it, it's influenced at the core of it as a story from the Odyssey, but it's in a completely different time period, and that's a rendition, and I'm completely cool with that. Go ahead, do it. I'd be interested in it. But you haven't even respected the initial work to be able to start making derivatives. That's what I'm noticing here, and that's constantly the case. And you're constantly trying to push certain agendas, and it's obvious with the film and the messaging that it had in it. So I'm going to end with that. For those people that are saying, oh, it's part of my culture, it's like, it's not part of your culture. I'm talking to Nolan. He's British, it's not part of your culture. Okay? Yes, it's World Heritage, but it's not part of your culture. And even if it was part of your culture, it doesn't give you the right to change it. Not even the Hellenes are allowed, or the Greeks are allowed to change it. Give me your artistic take and rendition of it. And another thing is that we actually mentioned that it's an artistic, kind of interpretation. Like, we make sure to actually translate this. Nolan done none of that. He was like, this is the Odyssey. And if anything, he's trying to justify all his actions, be like, well, this happened and that happened, and all the Homeric poems that were constantly changing, and we don't know this and we don't know that. Like, he's trying to excuse it instead of just coming out and saying, bro, it's a rendition, it's inspired by the Odyssey, and this is my take on it, and I'm focusing on modern, aspects and elements, and it's not supposed to immerse you in ancient Messenia, because it's not. But that's not what they're doing. They're trying to pass it as something that's supposed to immerse you and be this masterclass of filmmaking in the Odyssey, when at the end of the day, it's a pile of trash. If anyone's keeping count on record here on what my opinion is on the Odyssey, it hasn't changed now that the film has come out. If anything, it's solidified. And in terms of the content, it's even worse than I imagined. It's what I imagined, but seeing it in action is actually like, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that they went there and they actually did it like this. I mean, this is not Odysseus, this is not the Odyssey, and this is not Hellenic. You enjoy the film? Good for you. I don't care. It's not the Odyssey. Hope you enjoyed this video. Till next time, peace be with you.